found out my neighbors are literal white supremacists. I just moved here about 4 months ago from Texas. I made friends with a neighbor in my complex because she homeschooled and had kids similar ages to mine. We saw each other multiple times a week, and my kids who had a really hard time with moving found solace in having consistent friendships with people so close to us. I've made these people food, babysat for them, and really just loved on them since we arrived. Well, come to find out this Saturday, they are legit white supremacists. And I don't say that lightly. I came over to their home with my kiddos. Mind you, I'm 9 months pregnant. And this woman's husband starts a conversation with me regarding the topic of white nationalism. Now, mind you, I'm not white. My mother is Russian Jewish. My father is half black and half Panamanian. My husband is Danish, Armenian, and Mexican. So white nationalism comes up, and my neighbor begins to tell me they are white nationalists. Now I don't freak out. I just calmly ask what they mean. Then the husband, who is literally Australian, goes on a full-blown tirade basically telling me that he thinks only white people are true Americans and that if we deported all black people then there would be zero crime in this country. He then goes on saying things like black people are biologically more violent, that interracial marriage should be illegal again, that black people are low IQ, and that slavery was actually a good thing because it protected black people from themselves and it would actually be better for them to be slaves again. I'm talking wild stuff. So I am sitting there just flabbergasted that he's saying this stuff to my face and calmly trying to state my position, which is that I don't believe in race at all and that it's a social construct. I told him I believe we are all created in the image of God and that while I believe tribes and nations exist, I don't actually believe in race, which of course he finds completely ridiculous and tries to debate me on the subject. I keep trying to find an exit because I don't know how crazy this man is and my 3 other kids are playing upstairs. I keep telling them that they have a 5-minute warning and trying to leave, but he keeps rage baiting me. At one point in the conversation, he starts telling me that I'm not a feminine woman because I'm engaging in the conversation he literally started with me, saying that women shouldn't talk about politics or religion with men. He asks me if I'm this argumentative with my husband and starts implying my husband must be passive because I held my own in the discussion. After all of this, I send his wife a text the next day telling her that I'm very hurt by everything that happened and that my values don't align with the things expressed as a mother of mixed children and a Christian, to which she accused me of misrepresenting them, being manipulative / playing the victim, and then began comparing races to dog breeds. She ends it saying she will not be watching my children when I goes into labor, which I wasn't going to have her do at this point anyway, and that her husband won't allow her to see me anymore. My personal analysis on American work culture. 400 years ago, a group of Puritans landed on this continent, carrying a specific theological idea that has outlived the faith system itself. The belief was that hard work was a sign you were among the elect, chosen for salvation, and that idleness was a sign of moral corruption. Prosperity meant you were virtuous. Poverty meant you had failed God in some way. Idle hands are the devil's workshop is a phrase people still say today, completely unironically. Without any idea, they are quoting theology that predates the country by over a century. What's strange is that the religion mostly faded, but the moral framework never did. Somewhere along the way, work stopped being just a way to earn a living and became the entire measure of a person's worth as a human being. Ask anyone at a party what they do and watch how quickly the answer becomes a stand-in for who they are. Rest gets treated as something you have to earn first and feel guilty about after, even on days you are technically allowed to have off. Disability and chronic illness communities spend enormous amounts of energy proving they are trying hard enough to deserve accommodation, as if suffering has to come with a receipt attached before anyone will believe it. Poverty gets read as evidence of bad character instead of evidence of a bad system. I found out how deep this runs firsthand. I took a career break. My parents and my boyfriend supported me through it because they wanted to and because they could. I mentioned this on a subreddit, and the response from a huge number of Americans was genuinely unhinged. I was called a leech. I received death threats. People wished homelessness on me. People wished sexual assault on me. Nobody involved was harmed by my decision. Nobody's resources were being taken from them. The rage wasn't really about logistics at all. It only makes sense if you assume that not working equals not deserving to exist comfortably, which is the Puritan framework showing up nearly 4 centuries later, fully secularized, still running the show underneath everything. Around the same time, out of curiosity, my boyfriend and I posted a different question on askreddit, asking whether American parents would charge their own adult children rent to live at home. The overwhelming majority said yes, sometimes starting as early as 18. People described it as teaching real-world responsibility. Some parents took a cut of their kids' bonus and called it fair. Nobody in that thread got called a leech. Nobody sent those parents a single threat for turning their own child's housing into a transaction. Put those two threads next to each other, and the actual belief system becomes obvious. A parent extracting money from their child gets framed as tough love, character building, a rite of passage into adulthood. A person being supported by people who love them, with no obligation attached, gets read as a moral emergency worth threatening a stranger over. Suffering through labor, even labor imposed on you by your own family, is treated as what makes a person legitimate. Ease is treated as something suspicious, something that has to be justified or punished. This is the bootstraps myth wearing the Puritans' old clothes. The idea that struggle is what makes you deserving, that comfort has to be paid for in advance with pain, that the size of your suffering is somehow proof of your worth. It shows up in 2 weeks of vacation being called generous, while most of the world treats 4 to 6 weeks as a baseline. It shows up in answering emails from a beach being worn like a badge of honor instead of being recognized as a symptom. It shows up in the total absence of federal paid parental leave in a country that will still find room to be furious at a woman for resting on money that was never theirs to control in the first place. None of this is really about jobs. It is about a moral framework so old and so thoroughly absorbed that most people enforcing it have no idea they are doing theology. They think they are just being realistic, just describing how the world works. But a belief that idle hands are sinful does not stop being religious just because the church went away. It just puts on secular language and keeps doing exactly what it was built to do, which is decide who has earned the right to rest and who has to keep proving they deserve to simply be. I was almost kidnapped, or possibly killed, in Jacksonville, Florida. This happened in 2022, when I had moved to Jacksonville, Florida from my home state of Pennsylvania for school. I was there for only about a week and was going to parks around the area to feel the subtropical, swampy nature I had been obsessed with since I was younger. I was a 20-year-old male at the time and had not made any friends yet, so I was going to a new park every day all on my own. This was my first time in my life I was on my own, so I was dressing how I wanted, a crop top, hoodie, and some cute shorts. I considered myself a femboy. I've also always been told I looked younger than I really am, which may not seem important, but I think it plays a part into why this story creeps me out to this day. One day, I had gone to a new park in hopes to see an alligator, though I can't remember which park it was specifically. I had just stepped out of my car and started towards the entrance of the park, which was a nice forested area with a welcoming wooden fence. There was a couple walking just ahead of me, when suddenly a quiet, "Hey," came from my right. I ignored it, but then another "hey" came a few seconds later, this time a louder. I looked to my right, and a man in his 40s wearing a gray t-shirt and cargo shorts started rapidly approaching me. He got up close to me, really close, and told me not to go in that way since there was recently a lot of gang violence and drug busts in this park. At first I brushed it off and thought he was just trying to be nice to me, but once I said thanks and started back towards the park, he shifted his body between me and the park. He told me he knew the park well, and that there was a quieter, secret path he knew and wanted to take me down it. My heart sank as my eyes darted around the perimeter of the park. There was no other clearly visible paths from the parking lot. And as he told me this, another person walked by and into the park. This man did not try to stop this other person from entering. They didn't even look at them. Their eyes were glued to me. I started to stutter and said thanks, but if this park is dangerous, I think I should just go. I started backing away, but he continued to press me, keeping pace with me and telling me I should go with him. Eventually, I just turned around and quickly walked back to my car, with him glued to my side. As I opened my door, I reiterated that if the park was this dangerous, I should just leave, but as I went to close it, he grabbed the upper part of my door and shifted his body between the door and the car so that I could not close it. He gave up on trying to get me to go with him, instead asking for my phone number because he, quote, wanted to make sure I stayed safe. I was holding back tears at this point and trying my best to keep myself from screaming, but calmly asked him to move. He didn't budge. I caved, but instead of giving him my current number, I gave him my old cell number, which was no longer being used. He entered into his phone and started texting, which gave me just enough time to close my door and lock my car. He knocked on my window and I think asked if I got his message, which I then just turned on my phone and nodded my head before putting it into reverse and pulling away. Just before I left the park entirely, I looked one more time to see him walking away from the entrance and towards the far corner of the wooded area. I still have no idea who this man was or what he wanted, but I still stay up late some nights wondering what would have happened if I went with him. I don't know if he saw me as a young boy who was alone and vulnerable, or if he was genuinely trying to keep me safe. Thankfully, I never met this guy again, and was able to visit other parks around Florida without any weird encounters like this. Childhood paranormal experience. I was about 7 or 8 years old when this happened. My mom was running some errands and took my little sister with her, as she usually did since my sister was the youngest and did everything with my mom before she started school. My father worked Monday through Saturday at that time, so I was left home alone thinking I could handle it. All windows and doors were locked, and I knew not to open the door for anyone at any point of time. I locked myself in our one bedroom and thought nothing of it. As I was just relaxing on the family computer waiting for my mother and sister to come back, to my horror, I saw the bedroom doorknob turning. I was so damn scared that I jumped into my parents' bed and threw their blankets over my head. A few seconds later, I checked to see if the doorknob was still moving, and it was. I don't really know how to explain it, but the way the doorknob was turning seemed like the person wanted permission to come in, like they weren't expecting the door to be locked. It wasn't turning out of desperation, but rather like a, "Hey, let me in, why did you lock the door?" kind of thing. I automatically thought of the thing on the other side of the door as a child, because the gesture was something my sister would do if I excluded her from playtime I was having when we were younger. I know for a fact this wasn't my sister, because the front door of our apartment was about 3 to 4 inches thick of heavy steel or metal, and when the door closed you could feel the vibration of it throughout the apartment all the way to the back where the bedroom was, and you could hear it as well. My mother and sister eventually came home from what felt like eternity, and I ran into the living room to tell my mother what happened. She believed me and thought it could have been a random passing event. My mother is West Indian and has her fair share of ghost stories from her country and her time when she just came to the USA. This also wasn't the first paranormal occurrence in this apartment I grew up in, and it wasn't the last either, especially from this particular entity. Can customers have information ready before they call in? I work for an electric utility service. Parts of the job can become frustrating when dealing with mass public. I know I'm far from the ideal customer as well when it's my turn to be the one who needs help. However, working in customer service has shown me many ways to be more prepared when I'm seeking assistance for something. For instance, it would be great to have basic information at the ready so that you'll not have to waste your own time in calling back after spending 10+ minutes on hold just to talk to a person. Example: someone called to receive assistance on setting up the electricity in their name at an address they're moving in. I asked him what the address is that he's moving into. He told me, "It's at the corner of Ave and Street." I don't know. All right, hold on while I set up like 10 different addresses that could match that description. You're going to make some of your new neighbors happy taking over their bills as well. Some people will actually have their address on hand, but intend on holding some information secret, as if providing it all up front is too easy. The address would be something like 1234 Kennedy Avenue, apartment 513, Columbus, Ohio. Some people would first say, 1234 Kennedy. Okay, thanks. There's a Kennedy Street. There's a Kennedy Avenue. There's a Kennedy Boulevard. Which is it? Then they answer that question, and still it is apparent that the place is an apartment complex, so we get to ask another question to get the apartment number. Unless you're wishing to start up new service for the whole building, which will take some time, but I'm willing to do so. Let's have at it. Other instances, people tend to go around in a circle without going anywhere. It can prove rather tedious. Example: on another call I took when someone wanted to start service at an address. We were almost done, establishing one last piece of information we require. Me: is the address we're starting service at today also the mailing address? Customer: no. Me: all right, what would be the mailing address? Customer: I'll have to get a P.O. box. Me: sounds good. So what is that P.O. box? Customer: I don't have one right now. Me: oh, all right. In the meantime, then do you have a different mailing address? Customer: no. Sigh. Thanks for reading my rant. AITB for refusing to switch bedrooms with my brother for a week. My younger brother is coming to stay with me for about a week while he has some work done on his apartment. I have a 2-bedroom place, but the second bedroom is basically my office. It has a desk, shelves, printer, and a fold-out couch that is honestly pretty decent. I've had friends sleep on it before, and nobody complained. When my brother came over to drop off a bag yesterday, he looked at the office and immediately asked if he could just use my bedroom instead. His reason was that he sleeps badly on couches and has an early shift 3 of the days he'll be staying here. I said I'd rather not switch because I work from home twice that week. All of my clothes and stuff are in my room, and I don't really want to spend 7 nights sleeping in my own office. He said I was making it sound more inconvenient than it actually is, because technically I'd still have a bed, just not my normal one. I pointed out that technically he also has somewhere to sleep, and he's the guest. That annoyed him. He said when he stays with our parents, they always give him their better guest room, and that family is supposed to make each other comfortable. Later, my mom called and said I should just be nice for 1 week because his work schedule is already stressful. I told her I am being nice by letting him stay here for free and rearranging my office so he has space for his bags. Apparently that sounded petty because she said I shouldn't keep score with family. The thing is, I would probably swap for 1 or 2 nights if there was some real reason. But an entire week just because he prefers my mattress feels like a weird request. He also has a habit of treating other people's houses like extensions of our parents' house, so I think that's part of why I'm digging my heels in. He texted me this morning saying he might just stay with a coworker instead because at least they understand hospitality. I replied that was completely fine with me, which I think made him even more annoyed. Now my mom thinks I turned a small favor into some stupid principle thing. She might be right, but I also feel like giving someone a private room with a clean couch, fresh sheets, towels, and basically full use of my apartment is already pretty hospitable. AITB for refusing to give him my actual bedroom for the week.